Another day, another dollar as I holler to the world. I love the way I'm living, love the Gucci, love the girls, love the parties and the clubs, love the models and hot tubs, love the German engineering set on deep dish dubs. Another tour around the world, entertaining the fans. I love walking through the airport, taking pictures, shaking hands. Every day for me's an oyster, crack it open, find a pearl. I love the way I'm living, is what I holler to the world.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Marking Out with MVP and Dwayne Swayze.
I'm MVP. He's Dwayne Swayze. And he's marking out. And you know what? A long time ago, a legend said to me, we're all marks. If we weren't, we wouldn't be doing it. I'm a mark. I'm a mark. I'm a mark for Japanese wrestling.
Right on.
I'm a mark for Steely Dan. We're all marks, you know? It's just the level of mark that you are. And in this situation, Dwayne has license to mark out. And that's the premise of the show. An opportunity to mark out, ask questions, whatever you want to know. And now that we have some Patreon subscribers and our Patreon is growing, we are now actually taking questions from our Patreon subscribers. And I believe you got one for me.
Yes, this one comes from Hope Cousin, and I believe Hope's from Washington, D.C., so shout out to Hope.
Chocolate City.
So Hope wants to ask you, have you ever dated anyone in the wrestling business, and if so, who?
The unmitigated gall woman, how dare you? Who do you think you are? And why does it matter who, if so? What business is it of yours? I, to put it very bluntly, do not shit where I eat, as the saying goes. So I've never dated anyone.
Is it the other way around?
What's that?
Is it you don't eat where you shit? Or is it
I don't shit where I
shit
eat.
where I eat? Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Okay.
I worked in a strip club once. It could be messy. No, but seriously, I've made it a point that I never wanted to date any of my coworkers. So there's never been a company that I worked at that I was involved with somebody, even just physically. I just never wanted that. And, you know, for some people at work, they had great relationships, fell in love, got married, had families. And for others, I would see where it just, you know, it's when things aren't going well, that stuff comes to work with you. And,
Right.
you know, sometimes it causes problems backstage. I've seen that, you know. And it just wasn't something I was interested in. I didn't ever want to, when I was on the road, I wanted to live life on the road, and I didn't want to be involved with anybody. So, no, I have not. There's no name for you. I didn't date any talent. And, no, I'm just...
Well, there you go, Hope.
And even so, what makes you think I would kiss and tell? That's not my style anyway. I don't play that. Come on, man. It's an insult.
If you guys want to submit a question to MVP, make sure you sign up in Patreon. The syndicate level and the Ball and Superstar level allow for you guys to submit your own questions, and I will ask them to MVP on your behalf.
And MVP will give you advice like, don't bring sand to the beach. Hope.
Yeah, Hope.
Why would I bring sand to the beach? Get out of here. Keep messing with me, Hope.
All right. So to begin on Dwayne's question.
All right. What you got for me?
First question up. Who was the best agent, producer, or coach you ever worked with, and what made their feedback so effective?
Wow. And I have been so fortunate that through the years I've worked with legends. We throw the word legend around today. You know, we're so liberal with the word legend, but I've worked with literal legends. But I would say the one producer / agent that had the most immediate effect on me and who worked with me the most intensively was Arn Anderson. The Enforcer.
Yeah.
He, and I think for a while he was actually assigned to young MVP to teach me, you know, how to be a heel, how to be a better heel, how to think like a heel mannerisms. And, you know, and let's keep in mind, dude, like I was able to learn from the likes of, you know, Michael Hayes, you know, love him or hate him, you know, he's brilliant. in wrestling. You know, Dean Malenko, Steamboat, Kern, like there's all of these geniuses who understand the wrestling from so many different aspects too. Like, you know, there are certain things you'll learn, you know, like how to be a great babyface and babyface selling from somebody like Steamboat. But Arn specifically, Arn taught me things like like when the babyface is crawling on all fours, you know, you hit him with something and he's selling and he's crawling, just walk over and just go step on his foot. I mean, just go step on his fingers. It's not against the rules. It's just messed up, man, you know. And I would say, you know, people watching you do that, man, you know, you're not breaking the rules. It's just being a dick. And I say, okay, yeah, like those little things, those little mannerisms that, and something that Arn taught me that I never forgot this, from a psychological standpoint. People watch wrestling. They're in the stands, they're watching on television. And sometimes there are things that are happening in the ring that they can't articulate. They can't verbally tell you what it is they saw and how it registered. But there are like certain people where it's just like you look and you go, I don't know what it is about him, but he's different. You know? Or as Arn used to say, a guy that you can't see through his shit. Like Chris Benoit never had any formal amateur wrestling training, no grappling, no legit. But you thought that he was a legit shooter.
100%.
That he had that background.
Yeah.
Like he's a guy, as Arn Anderson would say, you can't see through his shit, you know. And it's when they're watching, fans can't always articulate what it is. They can't tell you. And he said, when you're menacing a babyface, a lot of young talent will walk completely away from their opponent who's selling for them. Walk several feet away to go raise their hands and taunt the crowd and hey, you shut up. Hey, you know. Psychologically, as you're processing this, your babyface, the guy you're rooting for, he's no longer in danger. He's safe now because I'm out of striking distance. Now, as long as I'm standing over that babyface and I'm here, or at any given second, right, you're in trouble.
Right.
But as soon as I'm here, you're safe. A lot of people don't even realize they're processing that. And that's one of the things Arn was explaining to me. They can't articulate it, but if I'm right over you at any given time, you're in danger. As soon as I lash out, you're at my mercy. And the fan who's watching that adrenaline flow, they're like,
yeah. We're scared for.
Yeah, but then as soon as you walk away to the other side of the ring, there's okay,
He can recover.
Right. He's all right. He's all right. You don't want that. I don't want that. I want to keep you at the edge of your seat. I want you worried for your champion. I want you pulling for him and cheering. And Arn taught me those little psychological things that are so different. Like Regal. Man, Regal's a nasty heel. Mm-hmm. Regal taught me things like I like to go for multiple covers in wrestling. So many of us are programmed. 1, 2, kick out. 1, 2, kick out. People don't even try to go for different types of covers. I like to use covers as an offensive weapon. I learned that from Regal. Every time a guy kicks out, he's got to expend energy. Mm. So if you hook a guy for the finish and he kicks out, sometimes you've seen me do this, where I'll hook the leg and I'll go to cover him again, but I put my forearm across his face. It's not against the rules. Like Arn said, it's not against the rules, but just makes you dead. You know? You got your elbow in their face, got the leg hooked in there, and they kick out. Then I'll do it again, and I'll put my knee in their face and hold the leg, and they kick out. Then I'll argue with the ref, man, that's 3. Then I get on them and land. Arn taught me that. Regal taught me 2 elements that I put together that you don't really see enough people do. But somebody who does do that, that fan who's watching, they can't articulate what it is, but they just thought like, man, that's nasty, man. I don't like him, man. That's like, he didn't need to do that. That's that, and it's not within the framework of the rules, but you just recognize that's not right,
Yeah.
And Arn really had a huge impact on me on how to be like that kind of a heel. And I'm really grateful that he took so much time. Like he made himself so available to me, man. And then just sometimes just drinking screwdrivers, like that vodka and vodka and grapefruit juice with salt, Arn, and just picking his brain. Arn, what do you think about this? How should I approach that? And Sheldon also, like anybody who has worked with Arn Anderson as a youngster, or if you've admired his work as a wrestler, you just know what Arn Anderson brings to the table. And it's those psychological intangibles that he teaches. They're, the famous saying, they're the things you know, the things you don't know, and the things you don't know you don't know. Arn taught me a lot about the things that I didn't know that I didn't know.
Did Arn produce your match with Ric Flair at Madison Square Garden? No, okay.
And the crazy thing is, I don't remember who did. Wow. But it wasn't Arn. Might have, I was going to say maybe it was Michael Hayes because he gave me the heads up. And I'd worked with Michael Hayes a lot back then, but I don't remember. That was a good question. And it's, it's so funny. I wonder if I'm like having onset of bad things later in life, or if it's just cannabis and concussion. But there are so many things that I wish that I had written down, or that I had notated, or that I had saved, just, thinking back now. Because there are moments in my career, like that moment. Who was a producer for that match? That was a big match. That was a big deal. I can't remember who the producer was.
But I'm sure if we put that match on right now, we watch it, it's going to trigger all those memories.
Probably, yeah, in that way. And that's something that I've learned that I need. I need a triggering mechanism. Because I'll be at a building and somebody will be like, man, we've been at this building before. And I'm like, have we? Have we? And then I got to see like a certain locker room or a certain like, oh, yeah, now I remember this place now. Okay, Or somebody would, hey, man, you remember that match in Tupelo, Mississippi? And like, no, why? Man, you worked so-and-so, and then somebody did something, and the guy threw the popcorn bag. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, that was Tupelo, okay, so. Or maybe I'm just getting old. Hey, please, if you're enjoying the content, like, subscribe, comment, give us feedback, tell us what you think, share us with your friends. Thank you.
When is it smart to no-sell something in a match? And when is it inexcusable?
That's one of those questions with so many gray areas, like, I don't know, are we in Japan? Is it strong style? Are you fighting, Antonio Inoki and not selling, that. If you guys want a laugh, it's not funny, but it is kind of funny. An example of picking a bad time to sell or to not sell, Google Antonio Inoki versus the great Antonio. And it's a match where Antonio Inoki, the legend, of Japan, takes on this guy. I think he was Canadian. I think he was like a Canadian strongman. But from all accounts, from all historians and everything, he was a bit of a character, on the streets of Canada. He would do strongman stuff for money or something. I've heard it said that, there's possibly a bit of a mental health element to it, possibly. But he's in the ring with Antonio Inoki. And, Antonio Inoki he's the man in Japan, And the great Antonio bends Inoki over and goes to give him a forearm to the back. But instead of catching him across the wide of the back, catches him on the neck. And in pro wrestling, that's a big no-no. Dude, don't hit me on the neck. And you're only going to do that to a vet one time, where you bend him over and he gives you his back to give him a forearm across the back. And you hit that neck, you're not gonna get that chance again. Because depending on how much that veteran likes you or that person you're working with, that's a mistake that you shouldn't be making.
Is this where the receipts come in?
Possibly. If it's like, hey, sorry about that, brother. Hey, man, sorry about that. When you're okay, then maybe you're all right. But in this case, the great Antonio did it again.
Oh, no.
And then he did it again. And at that point, Antonio Inoki had had enough. And he proceeds to punch and kick the great Antonio and pretty much just kicks his ass. So when you're approaching wrestling psychology, in Japan, they have what they call strong style, where guys will hit really hard, big chop, big move, and the guy will completely no sell it. They're like, and no selling meaning not give any reaction at all to something that should hurt.
And I want to interject real quick, Pete. We have ghetto strong style shirts for sale.
Yes, ghetto strong style. Yeah, you guys don't know about New Japan MVP. It was a little different from WWE MVP. Yeah, and I was always a big fan of strong style. And when I went over there, I decided we're gonna do a little ghetto strong style. Ghetto. And they are still available. You can buy them. But yeah, in the Japanese psychology to wrestling, there are moments where, you know, as you know, the hero's firing up, or the two wrestlers could just be having a big exchange, and they'll go back and forth with big, heavy shots, and neither one of them will sell that it hurt. Or maybe one might, you know, kind of register it a little bit and then come back with a big shot of his own or her. The ladies, the Joshis are sick, scary how good some of the women in Japan are, and the physicality that they put each other through. Like, they make some of the guys here, they should quit, like comparison.
Wow.
Manami Toyota, all-time favorite, shout out. But in American wrestling, we're simulating combat in the American style. So if I throw a punch and you don't sell my punch where it hurt, then you're making me look bad. Ultimately making both of us look bad. But there were certain wrestlers through the years that their character was such that they could endure a lot of pain or punishment. So it was okay for those characters to no sell your punch or your move. For example, The Undertaker. Now, The Undertaker sells, you know, and you get on him, you have to stay on him, and, you know, he'll sell. But there are times when you give The Undertaker a punch and he eats it and just, you know, looks at you menacingly.
He's dead.
Yeah. You know, the big monsters, Kane, you know, through the years, you know, Mark Henry, there are times you hit Mark Henry with something, big show, certain guys. You know, and in our industry, we've had, you know, something called the Hulk up, where, you know, as this baby face is starting to prepare for his big comeback, he's taking shots, but he's not selling them, and he's hulking up, and the fans are coming behind it, and
Made famous by Hogan Hulk.
I'm gonna bite my tongue on that one today. But so there are moments traditionally in wrestling when no selling is accepted, sometimes expected. But it doesn't work the other way around a lot of the times. If you're in there with The Undertaker, you don't no sell The Undertaker.
No, okay, understood.
Or that next punch will be real. And Taker said himself, man, one day we were laughing about it. He said, you know, just schooling us, he's like, I can make the lights go on and off. I can make it thunder. I can teleport. But if I throw a punch and you don't sell it, all that shit don't mean nothing. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Take it, throw a punch. I hate that punch. You know? You ain't gonna be back on TV again. You know? And plus whatever Taker does to you in the moment, because like that next round will be live. You'll sell the next one, you know. So there are moments in traditional wrestling where a babyface is making a comeback and he'll no sell some shots. You know, if it's the finish and your job, you're being paid to lose to this other person, and they're supposed to beat you clean, and it's 1, 2, 3, and on the 3, you take their finish, and then you get up and walk away like nothing happened. That's inexcusable. That's just disrespectful. You're just being a bad professional at that point, because your feelings are hurt. So you don't want to diminish someone else's finish. You know, something that was real popular, you used to see a lot in the 80s, where, you know, we still today sometimes, you see guys kick out right after the 3. You know, they'll take the finish in 1, 2, and right at 3, boom, then they kick out. Like, oh, they just missed it, you know. Way to kind of protect themselves a little bit. And, you know, most of the time that's acceptable as well. Unless, you know, you just took a tombstone pile driver. Then no, bitch, don't kick out at 3. You don't kick out after 3. Just stay there and punch it, you So it really is a case by case basis. So inexcusable is, here's somebody that we're building up, or somebody that's an over person with an established finish, and you don't sell it as inexcusable. Certain situations where, the level of, your Brock Lesnar and I don't know, some 5'8", 165-pound extra comes out, and Brock Lesnar gives him a shot, and he just goes,
Yeah.
nope.
Yeah. No way.
You're gonna find out how inexcusable that was.
What about making the Undertaker bleed? I think I know somebody who made the Undertaker bleed.
Well, that was excusable because I was supposed to come in and save Mr. Kennedy and hit Taker with the chair. So Taker got color for me hitting with the chair. But back then, too, again, it was a different time where we actually hit each other with chairs. We've come a long way with concussion protocol, where we're not allowed to hit each other with chairs anymore, and gratefully so. Shout out to Chris Nowinski, who's been doing a lot of really good work with concussions and learning about that issue that we face as professional athletes. But I crowned Taker with that chair the right way, and he got color. And yeah, I can say I'm on a short list of people in the professional wrestling industry that made the Undertaker bleed. That's right, I did that.
So, P, I want to ask you as a follow-up, since we're talking about selling, in episode, I believe it's 4, I asked you who you think sold your big boot the best. I don't believe we got an answer, so I just want to circle back to that.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember talking about other people selling. And yeah, the first person that comes to mind when I would hit that big high boot, first person that comes to mind is Rey Mysterio.
Ah, okay.
Ray would eat that boot like he was dead, man. Ray's ability to sell and the oomph he would put on it. There was a few times that I remember Ray coming off the ropes, and I used it as a cutoff. And man, he took that boot, and like I thought I heard him just the way, just the impact of boom, and he almost flips jackknifes in half. If you were to look, you'd find a few nice highlights of me giving Ray that boot and him making it look sick. The second person that comes to mind, believe it or not, Big Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. We had a series of TV matches where it was a TV feud. And at this point, Dave and I had already established a relationship. We were starting to get pretty cool. And he wanted to help make me. And he, the animal, Batista, he was in the corner, and I did my running high boot to the corner. My Kawada kick, stolen, blatantly stolen from the great Kawada, Toshiaki. And Dave, being the guy that he is, he didn't just sell the boot in the corner. Dave took the boot and went ass over tea kettle up over the top turnbuckle to the apron, to the floor. Wow. So he took that high boot and took the bump over the rope out of the ring. And I think it went over so well. I remember when we came back through the curtain, like Vince hugged him and said, God, you made that kid tonight. God damn it, Dave, you made that kid. And I was super grateful because, like, damn, you didn't have to do that for me. But and then another time we had a match where he took that boot over the barricade, on the other side, So Dave did that for me. Through the years, lots of guys did a good job of taking that boot. Oh man, poor Jimmy Yang. Oh man.
Oh, Jimmy Wang Yang.
Oh man, love Jimmy Wang Yang. That's my buddy, man. But boy, one night we were at a live event, and it was me against Jimmy Yang, and I told him to bail on the boot. But I said, Jimmy, don't duck it. Bail left, bail right. It's coming right down the middle, but don't duck. And, Jimmy was incredibly agile, and, he could do amazing things in this time. I don't know if he just forgot or if he just, reprogrammed. I don't know, but I was coming in for that running boot, and he didn't bail left or right. He tried to duck underneath, and boom, KO. He was knocked out cold.
Oh,
Like unconscious, because as I was bringing my leg up, he was coming down.
is this on TV? This is TV?
This is a live event.
Live event, okay.
Live event. Yeah,
Thank
nobody
God.
saw it on TV. Yeah, it's a live event. And I saw he was out right away. And Jimmy Corderas was the referee, the great Jimmy Corderas. Ref and Rant. Check out his podcast. We looked at each other, and it was just like,
Oh, you got to roll him?
no, 3, 1, 2, 3. This match is over. Like, there's nothing to do. He's unconscious, you know. And the people are watching. Like, you know, he ate it. 1, 2, 3, and he was so messed up. Like, he was concussed, and I feel bad about it. Accidents happen. It was a mistake, but he was so concussed that when we had him in the back, he was just like rambling incoherently, and Taker came in to check on him, and Jimmy started asking Taker questions, and he said something about, "Oh, so where's Michelle?" And everybody like, Jimmy, chill out, man. And Taker's like, "No, he's concussed. He's all right. He's obviously concussed." Y'all laughed about it.
You about to get a second one.
Yeah, he about to get them. But fortunately, it was all in good nature. But you know, concussions are real. Accidents happen, and that boot, you know, he didn't move left. He didn't move right. He tried to move under, and caught it, and it was pretty ugly. But yeah, the people that immediately pop into my cell are the best, Ray and Dave.
And Rey Mysterio, shout out to Ray. When you were changing up your theme music, it was Ray you spoke to, right? About finding a studio in Houston?
Yeah.
So if you didn't talk to Ray, and then Ray didn't introduce you to Baby Bash, and then Baby Bash didn't bring you to the
Mikael, Gold Chamber,
then we wouldn't be here.
That's how our relationship began. Yeah. One more time, Rey Mysterio, one of the greatest human beings on earth. Shout out to Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
Yeah, all the friends were thinking, thank you, Dave. Yeah. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Jimmy Wang.
Yeah, thank you, Jimmy Yang. Thank you, Taker. We should just call us the Grateful Podcast.
Right on.
Because it's a YouTube show. You see the effort we're putting into production, but now I'm finding out that anything like this is just a podcast now. It's called a podcast. Not my weekly YouTube series. It's a hey, good luck on the podcast. Congratulations on the podcast. I thought we were doing a show. I spent this money on production and, you know, but anyway, yeah. Let me, old man shaking fisted clouds. Rah, 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 podcast.
It's just a podcast.
Oh, man. Thought I was doing something cool.
What's your take on wrestlers doing too much on social media? Does it help or hurt their mystique?
So this is one of those questions that I enjoy when we do this because I get to speak on it from the perspective of having been around for a while. And I'm uniquely qualified to discuss this one from the perspective of a guy who's seen the transition. When I started, social media wasn't a thing. When I first started in WWE, like Facebook wasn't a thing yet. It was still MySpace.
Yeah, MySpace, right?
MySpace was social media.
And Facebook took your college ID to be able to log into.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, you know, Facebook wasn't a thing yet. You know, self-promotion was almost non-existent. The only way you were able to really get promoted is if you were able to get booked on shows, or if you would drive yourself in a carload of, you know, fellow wrestlers hundreds of miles to get booked on a show for nothing, just for an opportunity. And then back then, you know, you had DVDs and VHS tapes. So some indie show might do a big show, and you know, names that you hear about. And if you were able to get on, I think it was Jim Keltner had like the Super 8, which was a big indie thing on the East Coast with like all the top like high flyer guys, basically, if memory serves me correct. So when I started, it was very, very difficult to get yourself out there to be promoted. And then when social media first came along and these opportunities to promote yourself, initially, like most things, unfortunately, pro wrestling was very reluctant to receive this new stuff, and I remember Matt Hardy was on the cutting edge of all that. Like he had I'm pretty sure like the Hardy the Hardy show with his brother. That was um he had an early presence on MySpace and then Facebook and then social media. He got it way before a lot of people did, but sign of the times, oh, he's just a mark for himself. Are you stooging, man? You on the dirt sheet stooging? He would get shit for it, but he was ahead of the game. And then as technology and social media has grown, nowadays you can't be a successful wrestler without a social media presence. You need one. You have to have one in order to get booked and in order to grow your fan base and to interact with your fans. Now you have to have a connection with your fans. So you use the word mystique. I think that mystique is almost gone from professional wrestling now, for the most part. The Undertaker had an impenetrable mystique for decades, and now he's retired. He's Mark Calloway, and he has a podcast, and you can have access to the man who was in your nightmares for so many years.
Right, right, and he was in mine.
Yeah, he was in everybody's. He was the Undertaker, So he had the mystique. And back in the day, and that's something that I talk about sometimes, about the loss of the mystique due to the accessibility. When I was growing up, mixed martial arts didn't exist yet. Professional wrestlers were the mixed martial artists. So the question was, who are these people that fight each other in cages and get bloody? And I couldn't fathom, as a kid, I liked to watch it, but thought man, what kind of people agree to go in a cage and fight and get bloody and coal miner glove matches and dog strap matches and man, what kind of? So you had the mystique because if somebody was a pro wrestler and you saw him on TV, and again, the timeline, then being on TV was a thing. And I laugh about it, but I have people, the power of television, that just, amplifies who and what you are. Back then was a big deal because just anybody couldn't be on TV, even if it was your local, PBS station or your college access, hey man, I seen you on TV, man, But now we have YouTube.
Yes.
And you have Instagram, and so everybody's on TV now. You don't have to have talent to be on TV anymore. You don't need talent.
Truman shows. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I have sympathy for the new generation of talent that are doing too much because they're competing with so many other people. And that's why, I understand when some of these younger wrestlers are on these shows doing what I would say is idiotic, death-defying things. They're trying to get noticed. They're trying to be seen. In an ocean of young, talented people trying to be seen, they're trying to be seen. And it's difficult because, if I'm checking a talent out to see what they got, I'm looking at their footwork, I'm looking at their presence, I'm looking at the solidity of their fundamentals. And if they can do a cool shooting star press, oh, sure, that's nice too, But that's not how I'm judging their ability. And in terms of getting a job, getting hired somewhere, because generally, especially for the bigger companies, they're not looking at what you are now. They're looking at what you will be 5 years from now when you start drawing them money. Because the first several years, they're spending money on you, trying to turn you into something that's going to draw money back. So I have a little bit of sympathy for the ones that are doing too much because they're trying to be seen. I don't agree with all of the paths that they choose to take. Some of the viral stuff that's out there. It's too much.
But the doing too much can then give them all the social media followers in the world, and then now they can bring eyes to a product.
Yeah, but this is where I say the sympathy comes in, because it's happened plenty of times where some wrestler goes viral for doing something gross or disgusting or super dangerous, and then that's what they have to do. That becomes their thing.
Every week.
Yeah. Joey Ryan comes to mind. You know, I've worked with Joey Ryan for years on the West Coast, and you know, he blew up on the Indies, but his quote unquote dick spot in Japan went viral, where the Japanese wrestler grabbed him by the crotch, and his thing was, you know, he'd grab people by the crotch and they'd sell. But Joey, like, hulked up, you know.
Oh my goodness, I've seen those.
Yeah,
I didn't know
he went viral. It was huge. Where he would, you know, flip people with his crotch, and you know, he found the groove, and people wanted to see it. Like, oh man, I saw that clip. I saw that guy. You know, that's the kind of wrestling I'm not a fan of.
Yeah, same pause.
Yeah, I mean, and I like, you know, Joey had his own issues. That's his business. If you were paying attention to wrestling, you would take that up with him. But he also had his philosophy for wrestling is, hey, it's entertainment, man. Like, people want to have fun. They want to be entertained. And you can't argue with it, because he got millions of views. He stayed booked. He was getting paid. His table was long. People, instead of doing thumbtacks, he would throw out gummy bears. You know, he just had a little thing that it caught on. I wasn't a fan of it, but he was getting work. He was getting paid. Somebody, a promoter, wanted to book me against Joey Ryan, and I said, Antonio, MVP and Joey Ryan, that's not a match. That's not, because I don't do that. You'd be better to book him with somebody that would humor him that way. But you know, I don't like to do.
Is willing to
Yeah, first of all, I ain't grabbing your dick. We gonna start with that. I'm not doing that. You know, if you're into that, you know, as Seinfeld would say, not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong.
If you're into that, that's cool. But no, I'm not grabbing your crotch. I'm not doing that. You know, I like simulated combat.
Said for.
You know, granted, you know, the ball and elbow is goofy as hell, but you know, it's all shades of gray. But at the end of the day, I salute any independent wrestler that is working hard, you know, that has a social media presence, that is, you know, trying to get their stuff out there. I feel bad for a lot of the young wrestlers today, because they're working so hard to try to get stars, or, you know, to get the recognition of some of these dirt sheet writers to like them, to get their name out there so they can get higher ranking in, you know, some of the online lists and the wrestling magazines. And, you know, it's a game that you got to play. And I hate that they have to play it, because whoever the person is writing the article or the column or whatever the hell it is, their opinion is no more valid than the opinion of the person who bought a ticket to see the show. So if at the end of your match, if you got applause and, you know, people gave you a good reception and they popped on the finish, that's your indication that you did a good job. If that promoter brings you back, you know, not, you know, some guy giving his opinion on the internet saying whether or not you had a good match, who couldn't have a good match, you know, doesn't know how to have a good match. And a lot of them, I question what they think a good match is, because it's all subjective at the end of the day. But if you're a young guy trying to get over, and, you know, one of these popular dirt sheet writers puts your name out there and says something good about you, well, bam, now you have a much higher likelihood to get flown out and booked at other places. So, you know, it's a kind of self-fulfilling cycle type thing. But it's gone from where you were ostracized for having a social media presence, through evolving to where now you must have it. I don't care what wrestling company you work for, you gotta have a social media presence. They make you have one. Even if somebody else works your account, you have a social media presence. So, you know, when it comes to doing too much, I feel bad for them, because, you know, the pressure that they feel the need to do so. But, you know, the other side of it is like, think long term, man, think longevity. But it's just, everything is so in the moment. Everything is so now, you know, viral, you know, you do one thing and boom. Now, you know, instead of getting paid $50 and driving for a hot dog and a handshake, now people are paying you $300, $400, $500, you know, because you're popular, you're viral, you know. And now people are gonna buy tickets because, oh yeah, I saw that guy.
That's the guy.
Yeah, I saw that guy, and they wanna get in on that, and that's the name of the game, especially for independent shows, selling tickets. And you got to get your brand up, you got to get your name up. So it's a bit of a trick bag, but I understand it, and you know, I've seen the evolution. So, you know, I just say, unless your goal is to be, you know, what I call a garbage wrestler, if you are really trying to make it somewhere, if you are trying to make it in the industry as a career, then just keep it classy. You know, there are people that have done some things that I'm just like, the shock value I see, but at the end of the day, like, who's really buying tickets to see that? You know, but that's just my take. Old man shakes fist in clouds. Right?
I'm gonna rate your answer 5 stars. That's a 5-star answer.
5.5.
Yeah, 5.5. So if you've made it to this point in the video, we would just like to tell you guys to please like, subscribe, and comment.
Like, because what's not to like? Subscribe, because this is coming at you every week. We're holding up our end of the bargain. You do yours. And comment, because I like to hear the feedback, and I know some of you like the shit talking and then say, yeah, leave it. Cool, leave it. I ain't got no problem with it. Leave it. Because I'll either snap back at you or Dwayne will just delete your unimportant ass anyway. But seriously, comment. Tell your friends about us if you like the comment. I mean, if you like the content, comment, spread it around, and mark it out. MVP and Dwayne Swayze. I don't know, we should start referring to these as sessions.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody was big on the sessions. Remember we used to do the sessions back in the day? Talking to Rich off camera.
Who was that? I saw him on X. Trill Mexican 305.
Oh, yeah. I just saw him this weekend at the Gulf Salvador.
Okay, right on. Yeah, he said these are like the sessions.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, in the spirit of the sessions, see you, Space Cowboy.
I just lay back in something new. Whiskey 21 and over, low ball. Make it too neat. Dizzer from Harlem. Yeah, I'm from Houston, off of Fondren. Mike Mazan and real world flow. Plant these seeds in the streets and in weeks. Watch it blossom. Dark night, riding on chrome, swinging through Gotham. It's me and P, repaving these.